Have you ever felt frustrated using 3ds Max Biped? Unable to properly use squash and stretch or scale? In environments like the Korean game industry where biped is the main tool. If you want to use stretch or scale, additional rigging work beyond biped is essential. If your team doesn't have a dedicated rigger, animators often end up handling rigging themselves too. Recently, I tried out a tool that automates this rigging process. It's called BipedPlus, and I'm introducing it because I tried it and it was just amazing. Let's jump right in. Using only biped means you can't properly use scale animation. That's the main drawback. If you force scale animation in biped, it may look fine in Max. But in the engine, the character mesh gets distorted, and squashing issues occur. So if you want to bend a character's limbs, or scale up specific parts, biped alone won't cut it. Additional bone setup is absolutely required. If your team has a rigger, you can ask them, but without one. And on a small team, animators often end up handling character rigging themselves. For animators who've never dived deep into rigging, the complex setup can feel truly overwhelming. Despite the limitation of not being able to use scale, one reason you can't give up on biped is the massive amount of data accumulated from years of biped use in the game industry. Biped itself is a truly convenient tool for animation work. You can create humanoid rigs quickly without complex setup. It's easy to learn, and between biped project files, resource reuse is very simple. But no matter how great biped is, using only biped has its limits when making animations. Especially when creating secondary animation for hair, skirts, or capes. Additional bone setup becomes essential. Biped has a built-in pose mirror feature, so you can quickly copy poses from one side to the other. On the other hand, bones don't have a mirror feature, so you have to adjust each symmetrical bone individually, making the work incredibly inefficient. There's another problem too: the twist bone. The twist bone built into biped flips at certain angles, causing popping or awkward twisting, failing to compensate for the candy wrap effect as an intermediate bone in many cases. So usually, the built-in biped twist bone is almost never used. Scripts or custom bones are added instead to create the setup. Those who know the method handle it quickly, but for beginners, it feels like a really high wall to climb. I've also had to deal with these problems, which ate up a lot of work time, and for bone mirroring in particular. I'd never seen a tool that worked properly, so I was always grinding through it manually every time. So let me introduce you to BipedPlus, which solves all of these problems. This is my second sponsored video with OtakuSolutions. Actually, beyond BipedPlus, I've received sponsorship requests from various other software companies too, but I personally try the tool and evaluate whether in actual production it immediately improves work efficiency, and whether it's truly useful. If I think it's not, I don't accept the sponsorship. I'm sharing this because I want you to try this tool and boost your work efficiency. If you watch till the end, it will definitely be helpful. BipedPlus keeps the biped familiar in the game industry, exactly as it is, while letting you freely use twist bones, squash and stretch, and scale through automatic rigging. Let me briefly explain how to use it. After purchase, installation is simple. Just drag and drop the file. After installing and restarting Max, you'll see a menu called OS Tool. Click OS BipedPlus there and this window opens. Proceed with bone setup using BipedPlus on the left side. First, when creating a biped, set the number of spine bones, fingers, and how many twist bones to create in the build settings. Then press the build button, and the biped and controllers are automatically created. Once created, just like conventional setup, adjust the biped shape in figure mode to fit your character. Adjust the height to match the character's size. To roughly set the height first. Then, as usual, scale the biped size to align the character's joint positions. This method is useful for quickly getting the overall shape. You can also work in IK style mode. which is effective for fine-tuning joint positions. After adjusting the init controllers to match joint positions, click Update Rig from init, and the biped's joint positions will snap to match the specified init controller positions. Once you've aligned the bone positions, it's time for skinning. As the number of controllers increases, so does the skinning difficulty. For those curious about how to make skinning easier, for more details, please check the video tagged at the top. So once you finish skinning, you can add scale animation or bend limbs, enabling much more freedom in control. With BipedPlus, regardless of character design, simply aligning joint positions will auto-rig it, drastically cutting down the time spent on rigging. I did a quick test to check if stretch and scale work well by uploading it to the engine without any mesh distortion or squashing. You can see the spine, leg, and arm stretches working perfectly, especially for casual game genres, using BipedPlus with squash and stretch to create bouncier, more lively animations will be a huge help in raising the quality of your work. But as we work on animation, there's another major problem we encounter. Biped has a built-in pose mirror feature, making it easy and fast to copy poses for symmetrical parts. But bones and controllers can't use the mirror feature, so you need a separate script. But as those who've used bone mirror scripts know, mirroring often doesn't work properly, so you often end up grinding through it manually. The reason bone mirror scripts don't work properly is that the axis direction isn't always consistent when creating bones or controllers, and different people set up bone axes differently. When mirroring a bone, the reference for which direction to mirror keeps changing depending on the axis, so bone mirror scripts sometimes work and sometimes don't. This problem can also be solved with just one click in BipedPlus. Incredibly easy to fix. Even custom created bones with just one click. It automatically matches the symmetrical bone. Whether it's a bone or controller, just like working with Biped. Select the part you want to mirror, and just press the mirror button. You can see the symmetrical controller on the opposite side, mirrored precisely. Isn't that amazing? While working, I always felt that Biped had it, but controllers and bones couldn't use the mirror function properly. And I found it so inconvenient, so when I first tried this, it felt like I'd finally found a savior. For detailed bone mirror setup instructions, check the OtakuSolutions YouTube channel for the uploaded tutorials. But even with just biped movement, you can create quite good animations. Do you really need squash and stretch? Some of you might be thinking this. But think about it for a moment. The 12 basic principles you first learn when starting animation. You all know them, right? Number 1 is squash and stretch. It's the most core principle established by Disney animators through decades of research to bring animation to life. In the film animation industry, applying this principle to characters is standard. Not using it is actually the odd thing. But in the Korean game industry, because of biped's limitations, even this most basic principle cannot be properly implemented. The phrase, "biped is enough," is, in a way, adjusting your range of expression to fit the tool's limitations. Without squash and stretch, it becomes a critically limiting constraint. When going for bold layouts or dynamic cinematics, the images you see now are from the same camera angle, with nearly the same pose. But the right image is a pose made using stretch and scale. Even with the same camera angle, being able to use squash, stretch, and scale brings out the animator's intent even more, and elevates the quality of the final result. The standards of the gaming market keep rising, and to meet gamers' rising expectations with higher quality, motion, you need to be able to deliver. In a situation where competing games are making more dynamic motion, thinking, "We've been fine with just biped, no problem," will become harder and harder to justify. BipedPlus is the tool that removes those limitations. That's how I describe it. Beyond what I've explained, there are many more features. But let me cover just 3 more. First is the timeline range bookmark feature. You can create multiple time range bookmarks for any range. And clicking a saved bookmark in a Max file lets you quickly jump around the timeline. Very useful during work. Second, pressing play B lets you view animation in blocking mode. You can preview it in blocking state. Checking animation in blocking mode isn't in Max's default features, so it'll be really useful at the rough animation stage. Third, there's a feature where a target object can follow the transform values of a selected object by baking it. You can set an offset value to apply the desired separation and bake it. Very useful. Explaining all these various features, the content got a bit long. The talented developers of BipedPlus plan to continuously update the tool. If there are features you'd like added after purchasing and using it, please leave your feedback with the developer. So the conclusion of today's video is, BipedPlus automates complex rigging, so animators can focus more on animation itself. That's the tool in a nutshell. Starting from when this video goes live, early access launches. Starting from when this video goes live, early access launches. You can purchase the product at a discounted price. As new features continue to be added to the tool, the price will go up, so if you're interested, check the pinned comment right away. Rigging is handled by BipedPlus. But is there a way to make skinning easier? Some of you are wondering that, right? For those who struggle with adjusting vertices one by one and find skinning difficult, to make it more efficient, a skinning tool called SkinLayer Studio is in development. For those who purchase BipedPlus, SkinLayer Studio will be available free for 1 month. Once SkinLayer Studio officially launches, a 2-month free subscription will be provided. Make sure to check it out before the price goes up. That's all for today. See you in the next video. Bye.